Wanted to hop on today and record a few thoughts about the upcoming Blood Meridian adaptation. It was announced earlier this year that John Hillcoat would adapt Cormac McCarthy's novel, with McCarthy writing the screenplay. Shortly thereafter, I think a few months after that was announced, Cormac McCarthy sadly passed away at the age of 89. And many have wondered what the status of the Blood Meridian adaptation is. I actually write for Spectator, and I was tasked with interviewing the director, John Hillcoat. He's a director I really admire. I would send anyone to an early film of his, 2005's The Proposition, starring Guy Pearce, John Hurt, and others. A terrific film. And definitely in the mode of Blood Meridian. It's a Western set in 19th century Australia. Fantastic film. Gorgeous. When I saw it, I immediately thought of Blood Meridian, as did a number of the reviewers at the time. The violence, the kind of the unrelenting nature of the film, really spectacular. There's a character who is not the judge, but is judge-like. Nick Cave actually wrote both the screenplay and the score, if I'm remembering correctly. It's really terrific. So when I heard John Hillcoat had been selected to do the adaptation, like I said, I thought, wow, this is the perfect marriage of director to project. We went back and forth via email. There will be a more extensive interview to come next year. But the more I've thought about this, the more I've come to two conclusions about this adaptation, forthcoming adaptation. The first is that I don't believe it should be a 2-hour film. I don't even believe it should be a 3-hour film. I think it would be best served, the novel would be best served, the project would be best served to have Blood Meridian be a limited series or a mini-series, preferably on a platform like HBO, where the show could go as hard as possible. It makes sense for a bunch of reasons to me. One of the reasons it makes sense is that structurally, as the novel stands, I don't think it's well suited to the more conventional 120-minute or 180-minute even film. I don't think it works like that. I think it works more episodically. And I think that you could easily do it in 8 one-hour episodes. I think it could easily be divided up into those bites. You might not even need 8 episodes. You might be able to do it beautifully in 5 or 6. That's my first point about that. The second is, I think that it would be an even better product in every conceivable way, as a work of art, as a media experience, as an adaptation, if it was not live action but animated. Now, this is probably controversial, or will be seen as being controversial to some folks, and I get it. Here are 5 reasons I think an animated Blood Meridian adaptation is the way to go. And I'll not even get into the more pedestrian reasons like cost. And animation is very expensive, but compared to an entire operation that would, be needed to do a live action Blood Meridian film, I think the cost could be a fraction. So I'm not even going to get into all that. That's a kind of production cost, and there are other reasons. But here are some more substantive reasons I think the Blood Meridian adaptation should be animated. One, I actually think animation could convey the hallucinatory atmosphere of Cormac's novel. I think that an animated limited series or miniseries would be truer to the spirit of what Cormac is up to in Blood Meridian. Second, I believe that the violence that would be censored in a 2-hour film that was live action, I don't see how, if the film tried to be faithful to the source material, how it doesn't get an NC-17 rating. And an NC-17 rating is absolute death for any project. It would have a limited run, there'd be limited eyes on it. If the film, or the rather series, were animated, it's a whole different ball game. If you think of the kinds of things that are not only allowed in anime, but encouraged, the level of violence and everything else, I think that an animated series would go and could go way harder than a live action series or a live action adaptation. Reason number 3, I think casting becomes not only easier, that's more of a production concern, but I think you actually get a better cast and better performances using actors as voice actors. There's been a lot of conjecture among fans of Cormac about who's going to play the judge. I think actually the more difficult role to cast is the role of the kid. Finding, if it's live action, that is, finding a 16-year-old actor who can convey all that that character conveys on the page, I think is a real challenge. And the wrong actor in that role completely destroys the project. Becomes much easier if you have almost any talented young actor in their 20s or 30s, more mature than a teen actor, who can bring, the gravitas and the complexity to that role. People have wondered who could possibly play the judge in terms of the physical performance. I've heard people talk about Vince D'Onofrio, who I think could absolutely do it in live action. My choice, whether it's animated or live action, would actually be Tom Hardy. If it's live action, we know that after Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy, it's actually not a problem that Tom Hardy's 5'9". What's important is that he's a fantastic actor with this incredible voice and incredible range. If he's a voice actor performing Judge Holden, I think that becomes even more interesting. And I think it's an even better performance. So I actually think casting becomes easier, and it also, you end up with better performances. Reason 4, for whatever reason, people don't take the same offense at animated features and series as they do at live action ones. Now, of course, there are some people who take offense at everything, and I'm sure there are animated features that have got people fired up, right? I think of something Bill Burr said when he was developing F is for Family. He said that, he wanted to tell these stories about growing up in the 1970s and having this dad with a volcanic temper and what the culture was at the time. And he didn't see any way of taking that to a studio when he was thinking about it as a live action sitcom. He said, but he noticed that South Park did all this stuff, Family Guy did all this stuff, and almost never do you see anything on Twitter about something South Park does or something that Family Guy does in a negative way. People don't seem to take offense. I'm sure someone out there has, but it hasn't been an issue for either of those series. Blood Meridian, with all of its themes and all the material about Manifest Destiny and westward expansion, massacres of native people, all of those things. You can say you like it, you can say you don't like it, but that is a high political bar in Hollywood. I think if the adaptation is animated, I think it skirts those political issues in a very interesting way, and in a way that benefits the adaptation as a whole. And finally, number 5, I think that an animated Blood Meridian could offer a more unique, immersive, artistic experience, vision of Cormac's novel. I was thinking of a film called Waltz with Bashir that I believe came out 2008, 2009, around that time, about the war between Lebanon and Israel. And it captures all of these hallucinatory, paradoxical things about men at war. I think that a really great animated series, miniseries, limited series of Blood Meridian could take an audience into this space that I'm not sure we've experienced on the screen before. I think it could be as violent or just about as violent as the novel is. I think it could convey and express the gore and the horror and all of those things in such a way that we're really caught up in the experience. And as a work of art, I think the response would be incredible. I think people would totally get it. There would be viewers that would be completely in on it, and I think it would win all the big awards. I think it could be this watershed moment in the history of streaming. I think it would, people would try to imitate it. I think it would spawn a lot of things that would be both bad and good. So I didn't want this talk to be too scripted. I was just thinking about what this adaptation is going to be, wanted to hop on, share a few thoughts, and let me know in the comments. What do you think about the Blood Meridian adaptation? Who do you think should be the cast? What form should it take? Are you excited for it? Are you nervous? Let me know. All right, guys, more videos to come this week. Hope you have a great weekend. Take care.